Why do you think so many kids are obese today?
There's a glucose insulin reaction, and it's telling the body to store what you're eating as fat.
But a lot of people think organic is a scam. Do you think buying organic is a scam?
Well, see, the reason I think it's a scam is because they're giving you the bonus of invisible poisons.
I feel like we're constantly going against nature with plastic surgery and Botox and Ozempic. What do you think about all that?
Well, it all comes down to the mental mind. The progenitor of every action is the thought or a feeling.
When you see somebody that is overweight, do you tell them the truth about their weight, or do you say that they're beautiful, healthy, and totally fine?
Well, the weight's not the problem, the hate.
Why do you think that they're hating themselves so much?
We noticed that 79.2% of you are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Come subscribe. We give you 5 days a week of free weight loss advice. And I mean, come on. It's a pretty cool vibe over here. So I'd love it if you'd come join. We really appreciate all of your support. So please don't forget to subscribe.
So just come into the now, the eternal now that God has given us. And from this place of being in the now are all the insights and the secrets of the universe. So we listen to the birds and we feel our feet on the ground and feel the warmth in our hands. And we know that the angel of saints and the body of Christ and all the blessings of the universe are available to us as we stay present with Him who made us. Amen.
Amen.
Cold hands, cold hearts. You're cold too. Your hands are cold too.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kerry.
Nice, huh?
So beautiful.
Where we all began together.
I know. In that little patchy field in your car. Oh my gosh. I was so baffled when I first met you. I was like, this random lady, she's telling me to meditate. I've never met her. She wants me to go to Vegas. What's going on?
Yeah, you walked up to the window and she kept moving the car to follow the sun. Do you remember that? And you were like, wait, we're just taking a few steps forward every 10 minutes or so. And you're like, Mom, we got to go. Who is this person? This is weird. This is strange. I don't want to be here. You know, and then you really she just captivated you.
Well, did you send her to talk to me? I don't remember.
I dragged her over to the car to meet you.
Because she kept saying, Kerry wants to meet you. Kerry wants to meet you. And I'm like, who's Kerry? I've never met Kerry before. And then when I first met you, I was like, oh.
And then Kerry said, oh, she's real. She actually exists. But what did she say to you, Penelope, that captivated you, that drew you in?
That nothing happened to me. Like no one could hurt me. And I had never heard anyone in my life say that. I had many therapists who would validate my feelings, but I never had somebody say, oh, well, it's actually no one can hurt you. I never had anyone say that to me before. And usually people's responses are angry.
Oh yeah, they want to defend it.
What was I don't even remember my response to you when you said that. I just think I was just genuinely shocked by everything you
But
did.
there's something about you that is so sweet that I think you knew that you were being unburdened. You didn't want to resent your dad. You didn't want to resent the people in your life that you had. See, the mind is a powerful thing. It tricks us into all kinds of, and little children are susceptible to it. The role of the parent is to just watch the child's mentalness and how the mind is always trying to get it to be upset, or the ego, because the development of the ego is part of that fight or flight thing, and part of the fight or flight is to react emotionally.
And she was in so much anxiety that the idea of going to an event with strangers was completely out of her field of awareness and her comfort zone. And something about you had her say yes to that. And her life has changed indefinitely from that moment.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing to see. But as I've said to her many times, it has nothing to do with me.
Okay, well, you
It's all her.
can say that, but
She doesn't even like to admit that, but that's okay.
God sent you as an angel.
Well, angels do
to
come.
me.
We can be angels for different people in
Yeah,
different
so
times.
you're one of my angels.
Whenever we're ready. And you know, it's so ironic. I believed that my parents hurt me for years. And when I was unburdened by that, by realizing that it was all me, I had just been engaging in resentment and hurt and emotional ministrations. I began taking care of my parents when they were sick and towards the end of their life. And so I sold my house in Westlake Village, and it was, a 4-bedroom house, and my children had gone off, and so it was time. So I sold my house at Westlake Village, and I got a warehouse, and then I used to come here to this farm, and I'd volunteer on it with the farmer, and I also used to buy his product and bring it to my farmers markets and chefs in Las Vegas and LA, actually, and also in San Francisco and New York. And so I went down to Trancas Market, which is down the street from here. And there was remember those little pieces of paper that people would write their phone number on? Room for rent. This one was guest cottage for rent. So I ripped it off and I drove right up this hill over here near your house. And there was this gorgeous cottage for rent. And I was like, oh, this is perfect place to do my yoga. It was sort of like this deck out front in front of it, and place to do yoga and meditate and run my life, because this is where I always worked out and swam. And I went home and I made a deposit, gave him a deposit. I went home and I was like, the spirit was like, no. And I didn't know why, but I knew. So I went and I got my money back, and they weren't happy. And so then I got a call, and it was my sister about 2 weeks later, and she said, Dad has fourth stage prostate cancer. So I went back to Boston and was able to spend a year with him without the financial obligation or with anything. And so then I took care of my mother. I helped my father pass. He had a beautiful passing. And then I took care of my mother. She had Alzheimer's. And then I came back, and 2 weeks after my mother passed, the owner of the farm said, we'd like you to take over and be the lifetime manager of the farm. And so here I am. I can see the guest cottage from here and your house. And here you were across from here. It was your mom who intuitively sort of thought that maybe there would be help for her daughter.
Absolutely.
It's awful to watch your child suffering.
It is. And you interface with a lot of kids with the Inspiring Children's Foundation and the people you mentor here on the farm. I mean, hundreds of them. And we're noticing that there's more mental illness than ever before. If there's a pandemic,
Absolutely.
that's the one, especially for young people. And I wanted to see if you could share some insight with our audience about why, or from your perspective, why are the children so depressed and anxious?
Well, a couple of things. They don't really have a foundation as much anymore, the divorces. So when you have, children are mental anyway, meaning that they dwell in the imagination, they dwell in the emotion, they dwell in the reacting. It's just the way God made us.
Right, yeah.
That's just the way we roll. So at some point, children wake up and they realize that their emotions, the anxiety, the depressions, the boogeyman under the bed, are threatening them. And so the mind becomes a threat. And then if you're a parent and you have a foundational home, grandparents, outdoor living, we're really farmers. I mean, we're meant to be outside. I don't know if you've ever had intrusive thoughts.
Of course.
Never. What do you mean?
Well, intrusive thinking is common, especially with children. And so instead of going outside, we don't have that culture anymore. They go on to the rabbit hole of the blue light toxicity and the non-natural electromagnetic fields. We have natural electromagnetic fields. That's why you walk on the wet grass in your bare feet or the wet sand.
Yeah.
Because what really powers us, our whole body, is powered by what they call free electrons. And we get free electrons mostly from sunlight. And then, and also from grounding, from walking in the grass, and from food, and also from meditation. But so the thing is with little children, as they grow older, they go deeper and deeper into the mind. And so we all remember as children, or you do when you go to camp or we go to these outside kind of things like the beach, and a lot of times they think it's the geographical location, but it's really because we find ourselves, we find our peace. So it's just a matter of helping children to navigate back to themselves, back to what's our natural way. If you go against nature, metaphysically, meaning we're not meant to hate each other. We're meant to love each other. We're meant to help each other. If you go against nature's laws for the physical world too, you'll get sick.
Completely.
So that's all it is, to take a look at that.
Why do you think so many kids are obese today?
Well, because food, first of all, every time you go onto a blue light phone, there's a glucose insulin reaction, and it's telling the body to store what you're eating as fat. So you don't have the same burning fat cycles. You have a body that thinks it's dying all the time, right? That's what artificial light does, and especially artificial light at night. So basically, our bodies are programmed by a circadian rhythm, physically speaking, which is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. And the pituitary gland in the center of our forehead is the storehouse, or the manufacturer, the progenitor that tells signals the body of what hormones to produce. Now, hormones are different than vitamins, right? Hormones are what we manufacture from cholesterol, right? So in the morning, every single morning, you should be in the sun for the sunrise, because that's the beginning, the circadian rhythm beginning of the 24-hour cycle.
Right, and you need to have it on your skin and in your eyeballs, not through
Correct.
a lens or through contacts or
Correct.
through a window.
These glasses are even terrible. Even though they don't have any filter on them, they still minimize the amount of energy. The more sunlight you get, the longer you will live, and the more energy you will have. And so that's the key. So when you saw this, for example, the so-called COVID pandemic, everyone that passed away from COVID, or people who have very severe COVID, had low vitamin D levels. Cancer, same thing. So the only place you can manufacture vitamin D is from the sun. So you'll notice everyone gets sick in the winter. So that's when you have to be even more diligent about being
Sunlight.
cold, sunrises, totally, being cold and being in alignment with that circadian rhythm.
I also think that soap interferes with vitamin D metabolism.
Probably.
Because I think it takes 24 hours, and we're oftentimes washing the skin with soap that isn't oil-based. If it's an oil-based soap, it's an oil-based vitamin. It's an oil process. So I think it's okay for you if you're using Castile soap, for example. But I think that's also part of the vitamin D issue.
Sure. But naturally, if we just get back to living in nature more, so I think that obesity is also the amount of food that we use for comfort. When you're in high anxiety, that's one of the keynote things. That's why there's so many food issues. We're separated, but it's very easy to transition. Oh, I'm transitioning.
What do you think about
I'm transitioning from being a mental person
I am
into
too.
being a fully spirit-led person.
And what do you think about the amount of processed foods that kids are eating and just our generation, our society today?
Well, I think you'll notice if you switch out to a lifestyle of being outside and eating whole foods, as you guys talk about, you just crave the good foods.
It's
You
true.
crave an apple. You crave the tangerines. You crave, and having them out for children, just having them out. Like if the first thing they reach is carrots and celery and all of those things and hummus and good raw cheese or whatever for children, and good bread, like that bread you make, the
Are you
buckwheat.
listening, moms? Like, it's so simple. We don't need to be inflammatory about it. Like, it's so simple, just as Kerry described.
Yeah, so you just set it up. And also you teach your children to do it. Like my children, I homeschooled them, and every morning they made their own smoothies and made their own breakfasts, and at 3 and 4 years old. Now, the problem is, as a mother, you have to be patient because they're going to make a total mess.
Right.
That's so true. You were oftentimes at the countertop with me making stuff, Penelope. Do you remember?
Maybe a little bit. I remember you made me make my own Play-Doh. I really remember that.
You would sit up there, you'd boss me around. You love to boss people around. You're a good manager.
Well, she's a cardinal sign, right?
Capricorn.
What are the 4 cardinal signs? Capricorn, Cancer,
Aries? I don't know.
Aries. Yeah, for sure. Aries, and then Cancer. Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra.
Libra.
Cardinal, like the church, the cardinals in the church, they're the leaders. So they need a job. They're the generals. They're the organizers of
Children
people.
love to get their hands dirty. They love to get involved. They love to grow microgreens. You used to enjoy that. You used to come by and take little sunflower
Then you
seeds
gave me
sprout.
sprouts at school and I threw them away.
Not the whole time, right? Not every time. You ate some of them.
No.
You never ate any of them?
No.
I gave you sprouts for lunch for
I
years.
threw them away every time. I tried to give them away, but the kids didn't want them because they were trading like Snickers and Kit Kats. But here's a good point. What do you think moms are doing wrong with their kids? Like whether it's with how they treat others or how they're feeding them.
Well, most women try to put their will into the child.
Ooh, that's juicy.
So, for example, instead of giving choices, healthy choices, 5 of them, or, this is what do you want for lunch? Should we do this or this or this? They end up putting in what they think the child should do or have. And, your child is a Capricorn, so she wants to be in charge of her life from 2 years old. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that nature. But you need to encourage that nature and to have them have, insight and sensitivity and know when they're encouraging them towards their interests. Thomas Jefferson said children are the only humans that are denied the right to pursue their own interests. And so you, as a mother or a father, you want to understand your child's psyche and your child's needs and encourage that, because you're going to have frustrated children otherwise. And especially in schools, they're not looking at, what are your needs, or what is her developmental piece of this? Where can I direct her? Did you get irritated? Did you?
Surprised.
No. It's like watching a movie, right? I mean, that's where we want to get to, just watching the movie. The mind is not involved in these tricks, to get upset because that's really the cause of all out of alignment behaviors when you're upset. Most children are upset all the time. And the internet gets them upset, gets them amped, gets them emotional, and then it protects, they're not in their natural circadian rhythm, so they're depleted and they don't sleep properly, so they're not getting enough of the cycles of sleep, but then they're strung out. So then they use food to calm down.
And then the food is void of nutrients.
Right.
And I believe there's a correlation between the nutrient density of the food, or lack thereof, and the mental illness. I wouldn't know if to call it an illness, the mental situation that we find ourselves in.
Sure, of course. No question. No, it's very important for all those pieces.
So what do you think that parents can do outside of giving their children more agency? Phones are a part of their lives from now until we don't have electricity anymore, or there's some kind of crisis. I mean,
No,
living
they just
in the
have
real
to
world.
say no.
Snatch it out of their hand, like,
No, they bought the cell phone. I mean, you have to say no. It's just not good for the child. It's too addictive. They've studies proving how addictive it is. And it's just that iPad is a babysitter, but it's a very, very destructive thing.
it was really challenging to get it to say no.
Well, because what happens is that the child's going to throw a fit. And so you're dealing with nature. Most parents don't want to see that nature, so they keep appeasing it because they don't want to deal with it. Just like they don't want to deal with the mess in the kitchen when you're teaching a child how to naturally cook, do it right.
Yeah.
So you're an expert at sourcing like any nutrient we need, right? Any vegetable, fruit, anything, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
Right?
she's my go-to for sure. I trust what
You're
Kerry.
my go-to.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think organic is a scam. Do you think buying organic is a scam?
Well, see, the reason I think it's a scam is because they're giving you the bonus of invisible poisons.
Ooh, tell us more about that.
Glyphosate, which is one of the most dangerous chemicals. It's the most prolific. It's in our water supply. It's in the breast milk. It wreaks havoc on your gut, on your tummies, and the body stores it in the fat. And so what happens is you've got a whole generation of inflammation. Now, when you eat antioxidants, basically antioxidants are this is what I tell the children. When you eat processed foods, you create all these whirling dervishes called inflammatory cells, and they have barbs on the side, and they go in and they nick your inside of your veins, and they do destruction on inside of your body. And when you eat a carrot or an apple, they have antioxidants that are like Pac-Man, and they gobble up the inflammatory residue from eating processed foods. So you want to bring the balance up. I mean, pizza, the cookies, all the stuff that children eat. Naturally, it's not that big of a deal when it's balanced by a healthy whole food diet. Children will burn through it.
Yeah, and the phytonutrients are found in fruits and vegetables, in case you didn't know.
Right. So the whole thing is for the parents to be living this way, to switch, to have this. If there's nothing in the house, they're going to start eating apples and peanut butter, or apples and almond butter, or they're going to find things that satisfy them. We all know if you go out, you eat right, you feel right.
Totally.
When you're hungry and you want to go to, let's say In-N-Out Burger and just shovel down fries and ketchup in the burgers, you do that and you feel satisfied at first. And then later on you just feel sluggish and bad. But when you're eating right, salads and eggs and go ahead. What are you
What do
laughing
you say
at?
to the carnivores who are like, all vegetables are bad?
Oh, yeah,
We're on a farm right now, so I have to hear what you have to say about the vegetables not being bad, Because
Well-
right now they're the enemy in media.
It's very interesting because I know we always hear this, but it's the truth, that the whole thing is in the gut, right? So just like the soil, when you have when you have your plants, when you're feeding the plants, you're actually feeding the bugs under the ground, the subterranean bugs. The plant doesn't uptake what we pour in there. The bugs do, and they break down the minerals and the vitamins from the soil that we can't do.
So the bugs, you were talking about how you're really feeding the bugs because the bugs are breaking down the minerals.
Oh, you were talking about
in the soil.
vegetables.
Yeah, like
When
yeah.
they're vegetables, the carnivores always say the vegetables are.
They're out to kill you.
Yeah. Plants are killing you basically, and just
Yeah.
eat meat.
Because, your body has an inflammatory
So-
response to kale and
So what happens is the reason that there's so many varieties of everything is because there's so many varieties of bugs. And they prefer certain foods. For example, the red polyphenols that come from pomegranates and beets. The akamanzi that's a probiotic that feeds. It's anti-cancer, it's anti-inflammatory. And so when we eat a whole range of the rainbow, we end up proliferating these magical bugs. They notice, that these meat eaters end up with weird allergies, lots of stuffiness, lots of allergic reactions happening to the environment, to any foods that they eat,
And
because
it's not right
they
away.
don't have a full range. No, it isn't.
it's like
Keto diet works for a couple of years.
right. And then you hit year 4, then you're kind of like, oh, my liver's sluggish.
Right.
My colon is sluggish.
Right.
You got like dark circles under your eyes.
Right.
You might even be not even feeling, your muscles aren't forming the same way.
Right. And the thing is, what happens is when you start off on the keto diet, you're probably feeling great because you're also eliminating a lot of processed foods that you
Right.
were eating.
Yeah.
So you're getting a more pure diet, but you're not getting a well-rounded diet to feed all of the magical bugs that you want to be proliferating. I'm just doing a kefir now. I got the kefir grains, and then I got some grass-fed local dairy and cream, and I put them both together. And I do this probably once every 6 months or so, because all those magical bugs that are growing in the kefir are also going to inoculate inside of me, and they are the things that help you to not create inflammation. When you eat something and it's, you can't break it down properly, it turns into these excipients and these byproduct that are inflammatory. So the key to life is to decrease the inflammation, because the inflammation takes up so much energy for the body to deal with, and it's the harbinger, the beginning of diseases. So that's what you want to do.
Yeah, the phytonutrients are so key. I mean, I've seen it heal thousands of people and reverse diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And I get concerned that, humanity, like the United States of America, is so heavily influenced by what they see on social media that that's their go-to. It's like, how else are they supposed to learn about nutrition? Their doctors don't tell them. They don't learn about it in school. Their parents don't know. So they're finding themselves in a mess, and they disconnect the idea that the circadian rhythms are so powerful, and that whole foods could totally change their lives. Like you said, eat right, feel right. It's that simple, actually.
Well, and the thing that you have to understand, I think we need to go back to, is intuition as our source. I mean, your body knows. It has the intelligence of your generational, your generations. It has the intelligence of where you live. It has the intelligence of the cycle you're in. And so that's the reason to sit quietly every day and be still and separate from the mind. The mind is a bag of tricks. I mean, if you dwell in the mind, you're going to be losing your way.
Yeah.
And so that's the first primary thing. I would, homes that are quiet, where there's a lot of outdoor activity, going outside, the lights go down at night, there's no screen activity at night, maybe some reading or drawing, or, if you're watching a movie, they have blue light blockers on to protect them so that the circadian rhythm is protected. Basically, we have to go back to the natural cycles. And we think technology has eliminated our need for it, but it's the opposite.
I agree with you. I was listening to an interview last night, Penelope, and this doctor was saying that, we need 180 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. I mean, do you think that that's healthy?
Well, how does he know?
Well, it's like 1 gram
Per pound of
per
body weight.
pound of ideal body weight.
But how does he know?
They're doctors. They're experts.
But the thing is, it's like, I think the short term, people may feel better, but long term, if you look at like the bodybuilders, the people who have longevity are not bodybuilders.
That's true.
The bodybuilders die young. They're people who are like fat Ashkenazi Jews in New York City have one of the longest records of they're stout, little non-athletic people,
That's actually
performing athlete people
my dad's that.
type.
Yeah.
He'll
Well,
probably
we're
live a long
Ashkenazi.
time.
Yeah, we
He's
had
living
that.
a long time.
Yeah, he is living a long time.
He is.
It's true. Yeah, but that's our heritage.
Yeah, that's great. And so, but the thing is that it's the way we're living. I mean, my parents died of lifestyle diseases, prostate cancer and Alzheimer's. And these diseases were never prolific like they are now.
Yeah, my mom died of obesity.
Carrie,
Well,
what
appendicitis.
is happening to our food system? Seriously, like with all the chemicals and the appealed stickers on our food, and like I know you've seen that where they put like plastic over the skin of like produce just to make it last longer. Why are we doing that? Why is America doing that? Why is American vegetables taste so bad here, but like when I go to Europe, I eat vegetables there and they taste way different?
So the proliferation of this madness began in the 50s with the advent of these superhighways that they created because the wars had happened and they wanted to make sure that we had accessibility. And so these giant trucks that come from Florida with deli tomatoes were able to come across the country. So if you're going to be eating from Florida and you need to get it onto the table, it takes 3 to 5 to 8 days. Now you're into a warehouse at LA, then you're onto the Gelson's or whatever stores that it's going into. And so anything that would prolong or stop the breakdown of the food is what the food industry headed for. And so we ended up, settling for that. But the food supply systems that they have in Europe, for example, is when you have a farmer's market or you have a little market, they have all of these local farmers and this is all set up into their economic system. So it is about money. It's been about money. And it's also been about the ignorance of what do they call that? The grab and go,
Mindset. Yeah, the grab and
mindset,
go.
because it takes time you have to follow your intuition on it. You need to do the juicing and do the natural sourdough breads or know someone who did. Now, Thomas
Soak
Jefferson,
and sprout.
yeah, or John Adams was a farmer. And he loved farming. And when he was 13, he said to his dad, "Dad, I can't wait to be a farmer." And his dad said, "You're not going to be a farmer. You're going to go to Harvard." And so he was totally bummed out. And he was one of the signers of the Declaration. He spent the rest of his life wanting to farm. And they were really good at apple cider. And so they would go to the local place and they would say, "Here, I've got this apple cider." And then the neighbors would be great at potatoes. And so that we knew our makers, we knew our farmers, and that's what we have to get back to.
And so for those of you who don't know, Kerry is a legend. And anyone who knows her agrees because her knowledge and wisdom and depth extend beyond any person I've ever met, especially when it comes to everything to do with food. And I'm a total foodie.
You are.
So she and I have a lot of
Food is
connections around that.
delicious.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot because you know all the top chefs. And so that means a lot. So Kerry we're on this farm today. It's called did you call it the Malibu Fig Ranch?
Well, it's been the Malibu Fig Ranch since 1954. And then our family bought it. Its name is the Sterlings. They've been very good to us. And so it's called the Malibu Fig Ranch at Sterling Farms.
Where are the figs?
They were burned in the Woolsey fire. So we are bringing them back. We just planted about 25 fig trees. So they'll come back.
Okay. And so you have been burned, right? This burned.
Yeah, the burn.
And then
Burn, baby.
you speak about it with like levity, but you just keep going, right? Despite the devastation, despite all the things that are happening around you. And what is it that keeps you taking that next step in your life, despite your life being burned down, things happening that, failures, or I don't know if you can call them failures, but things that make life a little bit more challenging. What would you say is the thing that really helps you to take that next step?
I mean, I think daily separating from the mind, as I said. Now, when I say the mind, the mental, I mean the thinking, feeling, reacting. If you submit yourself to an understanding that the reason I've been having any difficulty or anxiety is because I've been not doing what I knew was right intuitively. All of men's problems come down to that one thing. They don't want to do what they know is right. People know. If I say to little kids, "Okay, so what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing?" Tell you right away, "I'm doing this, 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 and this." Most people will too.
I know I think that's why our program works so well, because we actually don't tell them what to do, and they're always surprised. Like, where's
Right.
my meal plan? And we say, well, actually, you know what to do.
Exactly.
So we're going to support you in doing that. And then when you're
Correct.
ready to learn something new, we're going to teach you that.
Correct.
But that's actually, that's the way we designed our program. And that's why women are feeling so empowered, and they're so proud, and that we're rebuilding their trust with
That's
themselves.
right, with themselves. And the thing is, there's two questions. What are you doing that you shouldn't be doing? And what do you know that you should be doing that you're not? So, for example, with the food, they could tell you right away, I'm eating this every night. I'm sneaking this. I'm doing all the things we all know that we do. And also, what do you know you should be doing? I should be doing the juicing. I should be eating protein in the morning and, a little switch over for a little while to whatever that diet is, the next step. And then you just allow the intuition to guide you.
It's pretty extraordinary.
It's Jiminy Cricket.
It's Jiminy Cricket.
And always let your conscience be your guide.
Fires, and there's actually a lot of conspiracies going on about the fires in California in general. So when a fire happens, right, ashes go all over the land and the soil. And so I'm wondering what is happening to the soil when there's ashes going and seeping into it, and there's this asbestos in the air and all these chemicals, lead in the air, and it's all going into our soil. How is that affecting the crop? And how is that affecting everyone in California who's eating those vegetables? And anywhere there's fires, how does it affect our bodies? How do we rectify it, purify the soil? Tell me all about it.
I'm not aware of any ash that fell on our farm. Even we were 5 miles away.
Okay.
It's pretty self-evident, but I just think that people have an idea that we are so tiny. I think we're minuscule compared to the Earth's cleaning program. I mean, I'm in the ocean. We're 10 miles from where the Palisades fires were, but I haven't seen evidence of pollution in the water now. Now, I swim in it, and I haven't seen any toxic excipients or anything that may have affected me. But I think the earth is so regenerative. I mean, it takes very little to, I don't know if you know about our compost program, but we have one of the most comprehensive compost programs anywhere. The whole farm is filled with, and since 1954, we have been just inoculating the soil all the time with composting. One of the things that you do that makes a healthy soil is potash or ash.
Good point.
And as far as asbestos, burning. I mean, have you ever seen an incinerator toilet?
Yeah.
It's like pulverizes. That fire pulverizes those. I mean, do I think there are chemicals with lithium and those things that are involved? Yes. But I think that the majority of everything is pulverized by the fire.
And does
these fires were nuclear. There's nothing left. My house was here. It was 5-bedroom, 4-bath home. It was a beautiful California farmhouse. It's like pulverized. There's no other word. It's decimated.
Makes you really connect with the impermanence of life.
Right.
Does the air quality affect the leaves of the plants, or because the plants breathe oxygen from the air?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I think the wind is so cool too. It just takes everything out
So you're basically saying that nature heals and that we don't have
all
to
the
worry.
time.
So
If we
you're
allow
saying
it.
nature heals.
If we allow it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're constantly going against nature with plastic surgery and Botox and Ozempic. What do you think about all that?
Well, it all comes down to the mental mind, right? The progenitor of every action is the thought or a feeling. So when a person decides that they don't want to be a slave to the feelings and thoughts anymore, they'll start taking a look at their motivations and what is driving them to do these things. Because for women and men, this Ozempic and it's making them feel good. It's making them feel better. And it's contrasted against an insecurity.
Well, they're feeling like they're losing weight, so they feel successful in that way, but actually it makes them feel sick.
Yes, but I'm saying they believe that. So there's a belief that they know they don't feel good. People are just trying to feel good.
That's right.
That's all we're trying to do here. Because we're meant to be high. We're meant to feel great. And unless you're willing to go through the work, stepping back and allowing the desire, the want to be there, and let it die out, right? Because that's the key. The key is that nothing is permanent. This feeling, this desire that you have to eat something or to change your looks or this insecurity that you have, if you sit back and you're still and you watch and wait, that nature will leave you. It'll die. It'll die out.
It's true. It's fascinating.
It's a nature. It's a metaphysical nature that at some point you make a decision that you want to change. And that's what happened with you. You're like sick of the whole,
Being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Being sick of being sick and tired.
Well, what's interesting, Carrie, is like body positivity played a really big role in like how the weight got put on. Of course, I was addicted to ultra processed food, but also body positivity on my phone and TikTok was like telling young girls, not just me, a lot of young girls, it's okay to be obese, it's healthy to be overweight. Dietitians say all foods are good foods. Like, what do you say to doctors and nutritionists who are telling young girls like me, like, hey, it's fine to be overweight? Even therapists saying all foods are good. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, it's a reaction to the bulimia and the anorexic thing.
It's a lie. It's a flat out lie.
It's a lie, but there's a lot of lies. And the thing is, for some reason, you decided you wanted to be free. You wanted to be happy. We all try all kinds of things.
But you know when it happened? It happened when I was stuck inside, not at school, not around ultra-processed food, in nature,
not
that
being
I was able
supported.
to follow that real intuition. Because I couldn't even tune into that because processed food and nicotine and drugs were so, like they had me in their grips.
Yeah, it overtook you.
And sphere of influence, right?
Well, I was just going to say school.
School.
Pull your children out of school.
Yeah,
And how are
it worked.
How are
It
parents
does.
supposed to even get real food? I mean, you go to the grocery store as a mom, anywhere in this country, and what are you supposed to buy? Because even the organic food you're saying is laced with glyphosate.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say organic food is laced with glyphosate. I would say that glyphosate, for some reason my eye's watering up, I would say that glyphosate is one of the most dangerous chemicals that we have invisibly added to non-organic foods.
Okay, so non-organic foods in general are just bad. We can say that.
Yeah,
And then
but if you're going to, you look up the dirty dozen. The 12 to 13 foods.
Yeah,
that
we'll
they
link that in the
say.
show notes. What the Dirty Dozen are by the EWR, and cherries, for example, are on that. Some that you just
Lettuces, berries.
Some of them it's really dangerous to buy non-organic. Also, the eradication of onions and garlic. I think if you're not buying organic onions and garlic, your food is getting irradiated, which is radiated. That's radiation on your food that you don't want to be eating. And they're doing that so it doesn't sprout, right? So, we understand it's a shelf life issue, but, you don't want that to get in opposition with your health. And so what are the other chemicals in organic food that are sneaking in that you were referencing earlier?
The antifungals, you'll have to look them up, but the thing is, if you don't have the proper soil balance of bugs, then molds and negative pathogens take over. So then you're constantly having to put chemicals in the soil to deal with whatever bugs are threatening to take over the crop. So when these, conventional farmers switch over to organic farming, there has to be some way for them to be able to pay for the loss of crop.
So organic, you're still taking a gamble because you're getting some fungicides and some pesticides that are still...
Some organic, but very little organic if you talk to your local farmer, you go to a farmer's market and you talk to the farmer and you say, what do you do for pests? And they will tell you. Sometimes they lie. And you can tell when someone's lying anyway, so that's the whole thing. If they start averting their eyes, a farmer that's dealing with pests is proud of the way they're dealing with pests, and they're going to be very clear with you how they deal with pests. And, integrated pest management with with different
bugs,
ladybugs especially,
Yeah.
but also special hornets and wasps.
Mhm.
And then you ask them how they deal with weed eradication. And the weed eradication is one of the things. And how do you deal with mold and fungus? And they will tell you.
I would love for moms to get to know their farmers and to start asking kind questions and start learning about what these chemicals are and if you're comfortable giving them to your children,
So
through the food.
what do we tell the millions of American moms that can't afford organic because of the price tag? What are they supposed to do?
Well, I think the thing is you can afford it because otherwise you're going to be having to pay doctor's bills. And you need to start with the 13, the dirty dozen, the ones that you absolutely should have
Should they
organic.
start gardening
Well,
too?
for example,
Yes.
yeah, grow your own.
Okay.
And
What's
the-
your first, what's your, the best tip for any mom who wants to start a garden at their house?
I would do. It depends on on the backyard, but raised beds are great for little children too.
Okay.
Put a
I would
layer
say-
of straw, gravel down the bottom, then a layer of straw, and You can do a project at home and build a box, and then put the soil on top of
Does
that.
soil matter?
Of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
So where do you get good soil?
but you can do composting yourself. And you
Okay.
take that hay, and then you take your kitchen scraps, and you do layers on top, leaves on top, and you let it compost and break down. And you can buy compost from places, and you can put it into the soil, and then you start amending your own soil. Like, for example, our soil's really rich and dense, and we'll be planting about probably 600 tomato plants in the next couple of weeks.
That's so exciting.
So excited to make things.
Wow.
And then we'll take our compost. You should link our compost program.
Okay.
From yesterday, it was
Sure.
just amazing. The soil's so rich, and then just add that to whatever the plant you're doing, and then the next season you just start over again. But now you've got a base, and now you have now you have bug protection, somewhat.
So are conventional farmers trying to poison us?
No, they don't believe it.
Okay.
They believe that what they're doing is fine.
Why? Is that all they were taught?
They also might be
or
incentivized.
Are they incentivized?
No, but it's for them. It's a matter of how it's evolved. It's a matter of not understanding or not wanting to understand, because they believe it's too hard.
Yeah.
So
We hear
that's
that a
why-
lot.
Do you
That's
think it's
why.
actually easier than they think, or do you think it is?
Short term, there'll be some discomfort and there'll be some financial issues, but long term, way more effective.
I mean, we hear a lot that these farmers who decide to be organic have to go out of business, or they have to reduce their farm because it's just so hard to make money as an organic farmer the way the system is set up. And young people are having a hard time getting into it because the cost is so high to just even get into it. So I don't know. Do you have any insight into this?
Yes, I think that the policies of this new president are going to be good for the agriculture, because we have been allowing produce from all over the world to come into our country, and they're not paying living wages to the people that are picking their food and bringing them in. So, and I also think that this new demand for organics is going to create a whole new generation of farmers. And I think I think if we have policies that incentivize landowners to rent to organic farmers at tax credits or tax breaks, and we start making policies that'll be supporting our food shed and food supply, which I think Bobby and President Trump are going to be doing, I think there'll be a big change. And I think it's very exciting to be alive at this time with this new Make America Healthy Again policies.
That's so exciting. I also think that growing microgreens in your kitchen is very gratifying. It's also delicious and nutrient dense, and it's fast. So sometimes the garden can be a slow thing. It takes time to grow something and to build the garden. And so I think microgreens are just so fun because it's like in 2 weeks you've got a salad, on your
True.
countertop. So
It's true.
I love that.
Okay, Carrie.
And also it's great to sprout sunflower seeds, to sprout your seeds too.
What's going on with the egg shortage? What happened there? Do you know anything about that?
Yes.
Because I'm really confused. I'm like, how did this randomly happen?
Because
did
the
they
big-
kill the chickens on purpose?
The big egg producers,
Where are all the eggs?
they test like 1 in 25,000 chickens. And if one of them has avian bird flu,
Okay.
they slaughter all of them.
Why?
Chickens are prolific. There's so much chickens because chickens are a quick progenitor. I mean, over and over again, within 6 months, you'll have a full flock of chickens. So it's cheaper for them to go through that than to start testing each little chicken.
So now when are the chicken eggs coming back? People are saying that prices are getting lower, and they're also saying that it's getting higher. I just don't even understand.
Well, it's as the chicken population comes back, they become immune to the avian flu. You'll find that eggs come back.
Okay. And because you know how they're doing the appeal thing, and they're putting the fake skin over the vegetables. Can they genetically modify the chickens that are coming back even more than they already were. You know, like how are you supposed to source your eggs properly? Because your eggs are really special, but most of the eggs now at the stores, they're all like, they don't even say soy free anymore. They say like 98%. So what?
You're always going to have to know where your sources are.
Okay.
And that's going to be the insurer that what we're getting is not this giant food supply that's going from Florida to California.
Do you hear that, moms? You have to know the supplier and the food chain. Like, you have to understand that. You have to really get curious, like we did, you know, when we realized it one day.
What's the one egg brand that anywhere in America?
I like that Vital. Don't you like
Vital?
that Vital?
Well, it says 98%. It doesn't say 100%. So I just
This is 98% of their, what, I didn't know
it
it's
says
a,
98% like soy free. So what's the other 2%? I don't
I don't know, let's
grain?
call them.
Yeah.
It seems a little off to me.
Let's call them.
And they were getting like some recalls and things like that. So I was like, not sure. And their butter says the same thing. Not 100%. It's like 97% grass fed. So I'm like,
I mean, I would call them. I think sometimes maybe they're, during times where they can't get the grass fed, maybe they're buying an alternate milk source.
milk. This is a great topic. Why is raw
terrible
milk
talk.
illegal in so many states?
So it's a couple of things. There are pathogens that will creep into the milk if the farmer doesn't have the proper techniques. So they've made the regulations so that that people will follow them. But the milk industry, the dairy industry has a hold on the legislature in most of these states. But that'll change. You know, one of the key things about Donald Trump's election was the state of Pennsylvania. And do you know who voted? 150,000 votes went in for Donald Trump in the state of Pennsylvania from the Amish. Because the Biden administration had screwed around with their raw milk supply.
Interesting.
So they went out and rallied the Amish for the, policies that were going to be supporting farm policies. They had never voted before. They had never registered before.
Wow.
So I think it's the age of Aquarius is here, and the transparency is the most important thing. And I think that's what's happening just by having people who are dedicated. The problem is the Democratic Party, which used to be my party and the party of the working people, has a 90% rejection rate right now. I forget what the polls came out, and it's like
Interesting.
it's down 90%.
Why do so many people reject you when you want them to meditate?
Nobody's ever rejected me about meditation. No, tell me what you mean. Why do people? Why are so resistant?
Why are they so resistant to having more peace in their life?
Okay, so a couple of things. One is the fight or flight, the ego, the evolutionary part of us, the amygdala, this area of the brain that is geared to keep us protected, fighting dinosaurs, also has a resistance to pain. And when you first sit down and meditate, there's a discomfort. The mind is like monkey mind, they call it. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And so to sit down and not be active and not do the to-do list and not go running out the door. So when you first sit down and start to meditate, there's a resistance. I call it la resistance. And so you have to make a decision that you're going to get over the resistance. Just like there's going to be discomfort when you're craving something that you have, been used to eating and addicted to eating. There's going to be a feeling, a craving. And you have to be willing to go through that, resisting giving into it.
Knowing that the thing you're doing is good for you and that you need to do it.
And that's most people are not wanting to settle down and really, right at whatever point in their life, change. Change comes from suffering, mostly.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, I was in Hyannisport in the summers, and I was making carrot juice, and I was an organic farmer, and I was doing meditation, and everyone was like, she's crazy. And so Bobby was one of the people, too, who was practicing meditation and eating right and organics. I mean, Bobby had 4 children who had severe asthma.
You guys are related, right?
Yes, through marriage. My husband's grandmother and Rose Kennedy were sisters. And so that's really what tied Bobby and me together, was this awareness of living a different style of life. And a woman named Jessie Shepard, too. There are others, Louise O'Neill, and a group of women who were changing the paradigm. But it was very much, cocktails, martinis at 5, and
Why do you think it became sexist to cook and clean, like and garden? And because they don't teach in school, they don't teach us
home
women how to
economics.
garden. They don't teach women how to garden or men to be carpenters.
I think you see pendulum swings in every generation. For example, in the 50s, when it was expected that women and they weren't allowed to work, I think you find that there's the 60s comes. Then the 60s came in where it was like we're breaking all of those rules. We have to encourage in each other to live intuitively. Like, I don't know what's right for someone else to do, but I know you know. That's what's great about your program. You're teaching people, like, look, your body knows what's right for you to do. I knew back then that it was right for me to juice and to grow my food organically. My family had gotten an E. coli. They had gone to Jack in the Box, and they had, after a T-ball game, and they got E. coli. And my little one, the toddler, was having digestive issues and was failing to thrive. And so I went out and did the research and realized that our whole family had a parasite called blastocytosis hominis. It's actually a protozoa. And it's very common in the West because of the Mexican food supply. They defecate in the fields. We don't have those same protozoa. And so some GI doctors say it is a problem. Other GI doctors say it's the cause of leaky gut. So I found this in the 1920s or 30s, this Dr. Boulardi, who was from the Louis Pasteur Institute in France, went to the Polynesian islands, and they were chewing on mango skins, fermented. And he said, what are these for? And they were like parasites. So it's called, now in our food supply health stores, it's called Saccharomyces boulardii, because Dr. Boulardi took it back to the Louis Pasteur Institute, and he saw, like, oh, this kills protozoa.
Amazing.
So I started giving it to my toddler, and then he started to come back, and he started to thrive. Years later, after he started not, I don't know whether he was eating properly or not, but he did have an appendectomy, and I know that these appendicitis are off the charts.
That's also what my mom died from.
Yeah, and that's the appendicitis is inflammation, and the appendix is used to store good bacteria. They put the original colonies store it into the appendicitis when we get sick.
Amazing.
So that it's protected from any bacteria that's coming through. So we're always able to regenerate. So for every problem we have, God has an antidote. And it's a matter of getting in touch with intuition. Intuition is the key for all of this.
And that led you to become the intuitive forager.
Correct.
And I feel like what you're doing here and for the chefs and for the community is beyond organic. It's like next level. What would you call that level beyond organic?
Well,
is it biodynamic?
Our farm is biodynamic. We use the techniques that Rudolf Steiner encouraged to do our farming. But he was just codifying, this was in the 1920s. Goethe and a whole group of Christian mystics that were living in Germany were very worried about the proliferation of all these chemicals Germany was the best at chemicals.
Rightly so, they should have been.
And so they knew that nuclear war was coming, and they knew that these chemicals would kill all life in the soil. So they sort of codified, and he went around and gave lectures all over the country. And so those turned into books. But it's basically ancient techniques of regenerative farming, where you're using lactating cows or whatever you have on the farm. If you have pigs on the farm, you would use that manure because that's the terroir of the farm. And you're adding everything back into the compost, and then you're creating a substrate for the live bugs. We always want to have, we're covered with bacteria. People are turned off by that, but that's our protective source.
And the soil in your farm, would you liken that to also the gut microbiome?
Exactly. That is the gut microbiome, the same type of thing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing how we're built.
And that's why hydroponics are not, I don't think, are really the same thing.
No, they're not.
They're just not. It's like injected with the minerals. You can't recreate that.
No, you cannot.
And a lot of the tomatoes we're getting are generated
Waterborne.
hydroponically.
Waterborne.
Yeah. And it's concerning for me. Yeah, because
Yeah, it
tomatoes
should
are
be.
such a critical, the phytonutrients in a tomato are critical for our well-being. So I guess
They
we get,
taste so good.
yeah, especially in September when
But don't you,
here.
that's the other thing. Don't you find you crave different foods?
Yes.
When you start getting through the seasons, you crave the foods that are coming from the ground
Totally, I
at that
can't
time.
wait for the peaches and the apricots. I mean, honestly, as
But
a
you
chef,
don't really crave a peach and apricot right now.
no, not right now.
No, it's because it's like it's funny when you start getting in sync with our where we're living in our seasons. It's just magical.
I'm hunting for that ripe strawberry as I walk
I
down.
do have one. They're coming out
I
now.
want to make strawberry shortcake, so I'm so glad you said that.
You look like a strawberry shortcake.
She does. She totally does.
Knock it off. No, it's great.
And when we start talking about food, we all get really excited.
I
I can just,
know.
you feel the shift in
But
the
you know-
energy. Like,
You know what?
it's,
I also feel for all the families who don't even know what it feels like to crave whole foods.
well, yeah, their taste buds have been hijacked because their gut microbiome's been hijacked, and that also hijacks their brain. And so it's really a compounded mess that we're in.
Listen, when I was 27, I had my first son, and I had this terrible depression, and I didn't want to leave my house. And I was lying there nursing my little one, and I heard this man on the radio that I had heard when I was like 13 or 14, one of my aunts or someone. And he said, well, you need to meditate. You need to sit quietly. You need to separate from the mind. And I'm laying there, and I was like, oh, yeah, what was that thing again? And then I started to go out in my world, and then I heard, meditate, meditate, meditate. And I started to meditate at 27. And you will see, as you keep giving your messages, people who want to be free will go back to it. They'll remember it. It gets lodged in our consciousness because our first nature is love. And when we're living in an unloving way to ourselves, we're always out of balance. We're always out of sync. We're always being called back. So it certainly isn't hopeless. It's the most amazing thing that human beings are so resilient that this message goes across the airwaves. It's just so wild.
It is a wild.
Here I am lying there nursing my little one, and I heard this English man talking about meditation, meditation. Turns out he was in Los Angeles. He's long gone now, though. I didn't know anything about Los Angeles at the time, or I did. I thought there were drive-by shootings all the time.
Right. Not the same thing living on
And
the East
earthquakes
Coast.
and fires. And then, of course, here I am with earthquakes and fires.
Yeah.
If there was one thing you could tell a mom who is struggling with ultra-processed foods and a depressed kid, an anxious, fat, overweight kid who's in public school and she could barely make ends meet and it's just her, what would you tell her?
Just follow your intuition. There's the whole body of angels and saints that are there that are ready to help you and to aid your way. You'll know what's right to do. And don't put your will into the food, right? Keep your will out of the food.
That's a really good advice. I think that people feel that meditation is this lofty idea that they need to sit on top of the Himalaya and have, and that if they're doing it right, only if they have no thoughts, and if, there's like this ideal. It feels like there's so much charge to the word meditation, and the way you approach it, it's so friendly. The way you approach it, it's so easy. And it doesn't have to take 25 minutes, like the TM, people, they have very strict method. And I'm not saying you shouldn't follow a TM method or any method that works for you works. I mean, some people think that driving fast
your
is their
intuition.
meditation. Maybe when I'm swimming, it's meditation. Maybe when we're walking on the beach, it's meditation. Like, it doesn't have to look one way, like the way the media depicts it. And I think sometimes I notice when I talk to people about meditation, they think that they're like, oh, I'm not good at meditating.
Well, there's a difference between moving meditation and sitting still meditation.
True.
Sitting still meditation can be like right now, if you close your eyes and you put your fingertips together like this and just relax them on your lap and listen for the birds and feel your feet on the ground and just be very present with the magnets in your fingertips. And you're aware of the birds and the breeze and whatever construction or noise of the day that's going on, and just gently, without trying, be aware of the warmth in your fingertips. And we'll take 3 breaths together. And taking these breaths together is in order to keep you out of the mind. Now, your mind is going to hijack you. So the moment you realize you're hijacked, come back to the warmth in your fingertips and your sitting bones on the chair and being present. So we'll take 3 breaths together. We'll hold them for 9 seconds. First one I will count, and then the other 2 we'll do on our own. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Breathe out all tension. Don't forget your fingertips. 2, and 3. Take a stretch. Big stretch. Go, you chicken fat, back to the chicken and don't be chicken again.
I have no idea what you guys are singing or talking about.
Do you remember that song?
No, I don't actually.
I was born a little too late for that.
I think it was the 1960s. So I think the point is that being connected to Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is our first nature. And as we create space for that to happen in our lives, being quiet and being still and asking for, His will and His guidance just by our intentions, being still, we separate from the mind. Remember, the only thing that's interfering between us and God is the mind. And the mind, if the mind is the energy or the wind beneath your wings, it's a very limited way to go. And the point is that you're missing the whole magic of the intelligence of the universe and the reason we're here, and the guidance to take us where we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be, where we're supposed to go. So yes, meditation is the way to separate from the mind. That's all it is. It's a way of just getting out of the mind so that the spirit can be heard, the wordless knowing of the spirit. So that's the whole point about, yes, is swimming meditative? Yes, but it isn't meditation. It's not sitting quietly and separating from the mind. It's a much harder craft to discipline to develop. It's because of the resistance again, the resistance to do what's right. And that's all of man's problems, their unwillingness to do what they know is right.
And so for young girls who don't know what the right thing is to do, they maybe didn't have a great role model, what do you tell them for them to get out of the media on their phones? Because it's very tempting to be on the phone. It's very tempting to get the Botox, get the plastic surgery, do the Ozempic to fit in. Young girls just want to be loved and to be fit in. And so how do you go about giving them the best advice?
Reinstilling their hope.
Because you reinstilled hope in me. I know you say that you can't take credit, but whatever. I'm just going to...
And many, many others.
Well, I think everybody knows that it's not working.
Okay.
That this is a need, this need for other people to affirm you, for a man to love you, for a parent or a teacher for approval is empty. Because even after you get it, you want more and more and more. And the way of living where you decide to do what you know is right and to let go of that need is the sort of the question of everyone's life. And when does that happen? I don't know. You had obviously suffered enough. Your suffering comes from these mental ideas. Everyone's suffering comes from their mental ideas. Because every time you know what's right to do, what's right to eat, what's right to say, what's not right to say, the reason you're not doing that is because you're listening to the mind that's telling you this is a better way. Delay it. No, you don't need to do it now. No, it's fine. Do it tomorrow. All of those voices in your head are the ones that are leading you down the path of destruction.
Yeah.
And so taking a look at that, it's like, when is it going to be enough?
Well, these girls are on antidepressants, Lexapro, they're on birth control.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get them off?
Well, they have to decide.
But how are they going to know to decide if their brain's being told that it's like, young girls are being brainwashed by
they
doctors.
Are. Correct.
And social media.
Therapists.
But it still doesn't negate their knowing. The soul is always there.
Okay, but I know girls who they just don't care. Like, they just won't see. They're so brainwashed. They cannot even see outside themselves. They're in the victim mindset. How do you pull one out that's like that?
You can't.
You can't. Life will show them.
No, that's you have to accept what is their choice, their reality.
And the
they
timing.
know. They always know. Everyone always knows when they're doing wrong.
Yes.
Well, that's true. I think that is true. I think you were one of those girls, but you had suffered enough. Like you had decided, like, this is the way I'm living. So what was it?
Just not recognizing myself anymore. Just completely losing that intuition, that inner child, that childlike self, connection to God.
But you it was always there.
Right. But I just couldn't. I just wanted to block it.
Yes,
I
you
was
wanted to
blocking
block it
I
at the
was
time.
blocking
But what do you think
emotions.
it was that had you listen to what I had to say? Well, you decided.
There was a readiness in you.
Yeah.
There must have been a readiness and that divine intervention in that moment.
You had suffered enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I had suffered enough.
And that's what you need to say to your peers. Like, you are going to suffer. And when it's enough.
No one wants to be told they're gonna suffer.
No, they are
Even if it's-
suffering,
They know
right?
they're suffering.
They know they're suffering, but when you tell them you're gonna suffer more, they kind of can't accept.
Well, I'm
that.
not saying you tell them you're going to suffer more. It's like, why do you want to suffer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are
you
watching,
suffering? Just ask them. Are you suffering? Why? Why do you want to keep suffering?
You do ask great questions when you ask people that.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's common sense, right?
and then they start to cry because they feel
Or
seen.
they get mad. Like I know somebody you asked that to, and she was like really upset, and she just stayed upset about it.
Yeah,
Those are
that's-
people. They're
yeah.
people that make that choice to keep
So
suffering.
that's called defensive behavior.
Yeah.
So when people are engaging in defensive behavior, it's because they're defending something that they know is wrong. You don't defend what you know is right, right?
Right.
You don't get defensive about what you know is right.
When you see somebody that is overweight, do you tell them the truth about their weight, or do you say that they're beautiful, healthy, and totally fine?
Well, the weight's not the problem.
Okay.
The hate of doing what's right is the problem.
Okay.
So if I'm going to have a discussion with someone, I'm going to just be talking from where they're coming from. Like where you were coming from, you were ready for whatever we talked about. It's
Yeah.
not a prescribed thing. It's an intuitive knowing of understanding and being sensitive to where someone else is in their path or in their program. You know,
Why do you think that they're hating themselves so much?
it's not hating themselves. It's just you're engaging in behaviors to stop you from seeing that you're not doing what you know is right.
Well, we know gluttony is a sin. So do you believe we should be calling it out, or do you believe?
But that's not the problem. The problem is not the eating. The problem is the mind,
Yeah.
the thinking. So every time you don't do what you know is right, then you have a stress.
Right.
And then how you deal with the stress is what you end up seeing. So we end up dealing with the stress that we're not doing what's right by eating. That makes us feel more in equilibrium from the fact that we're ignoring our intuition. The intuition's always calling us to do what we know is right.
And we have these body positive influencers. We have these overweight models everywhere. It's like the new trend. How are we correcting it? You know, how
Oprah's
can people correct it? How can moms correct it? You know, how can daughters correct it? Like I'm saying, would you tell somebody like, hey, you're overweight, you need to lose weight? Would you call it out? Would you at least bring it up? Or somehow
Well,
are
I
you
don't-
saying you'd
I don't
address
think
it at the root
you
cause?
didn't lose the weight. You lost the mindset.
Yeah.
There's a weight. There's a heavy, eating wrong mindset
Right.
that you decided to lose. That's what you have to speak to, because it's not the putting the food in the mouth, right? That's what I think
That's a
Jesus
result
said.
of
yes.
He said it's a result of the mindset
right.
of using food to mediate the stress, the pressure, the tension,
Yeah.
and the stress of not following what they know is right.
I mean, Oprah did that special that was revolutionary. It was called, Ending the Blame and Shame.
Was it revolutionary?
Well, it made a huge it created a tidal wave. And she was encouraging the end of blame and shame through the use of weight loss medication, which to me is wrong. It's just completely wrong.
Well, of course. But the thing is that they're trying to deal with the mind, ending the blame and shame through the Ozempic or whatever the drug is. But the truth is, you have to stare the mind down. The mind is not you. It's not your friend. It's a frenemy. It brings you imaginary stories, and it has mental ideas about marrying Prince Charming, or, I look beautiful, that I'm 300 pounds, or whatever that the mind is. It's like a psychosis. The mind is not your friend. So they're trying to defeat the mind, the shame and the feelings. When I say mind, I'm including feelings in that, through Ozempic. But the truth is, it's a decision that you have to make, and you have to come to yourself, as you did. You have to have suffered enough. So if you're there and you're intuitive and you're aware and you have compassion and not judgment, and you don't feel like you need to change them, because that would be the mind, then you're just a living example. That's what I was doing, right? You met me and I was just speaking plain common sense, and you were aware and ready, and so you just decided to let go of the mindset that was killing you.
Yeah.
It's a battle between the ears.
That's good. That's well said.
It's not the food, it's the thinking. And I think in AA they call it stinking thinking. But all thinking is way overused. We're supposed to use the mind for, you know, a plan to build a house or something, not to navigate through our. We're supposed to use the mind as a plan to build a house or to do a paper, but not to run our life with. We're supposed to use the soul for the wind beneath our wings.
Why don't we learn that stuff in school?
Yeah.
Well, because basically school is a holding camp for, it's an intern. I mean, it's a internment camp. They're just, teenage energy is not the easiest energy. Teenage energy at 13 begins the shift into, I'm sick of everyone telling me what to do, and I know better than anybody else. So what are you going to do with that kind of anger?
You got to find an outlet for it.
Well, I mean, it can be dealt with properly, no question. But I'm just saying that people who are not in awareness and they're not committed to doing what's right, they find that school is the place to put them.
And most weren't raised right.
Correct. Most didn't even have parents around.
Right.
So the absentee landlords. But the point is that everybody can make it, because we aren't dependent upon parents. We aren't dependent. If everybody was dependent upon having healthy parents, nobody would be happy and successful.
That's absolutely right.
So how do you think we fix this generation? My generation.
What you're doing with this podcast and the meditation and creating groups. I know, like Jewel, who's one of the partners in the foundation that we're partners in the Malibu Fig Ranch, is a place for a retreat center for our children who have been at risk for a long time. She had something called Everyday Angels, where she took her fans and they created support group. Well, in the same way you're doing that, she integrated Everyday Angels into the Inspiring Children Foundation, and those are the same basic principles. Mentorship of each other, talking about real things. We have the Sunday dinners here in the farm where we talk about real things. So this is spreading. This is like a virus. It's
Can you tell us?
It's like a pandemic.
I love it.
But one that's turning things around.
Pandemic.
Can you tell us?
With some fish and meat.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Can you tell us more about the Fig Ranch and the retreat center and what you guys are working towards in the next 10 years or so?
So we have been a regenerative organic farm since 1954, and I took it over 10 years ago and continued the process. But we went into more of a biodynamic farming, and we're hit by the Woolsey fire, so we're coming back. All of our irrigation and trees and structures were all destroyed, but we're coming back, and I want the Malibu Fig Ranch to be a regenerative education center and a retreat center for mental health. So totally we could bring your group here to be able to disconnect, to reconnect to themselves, and also to learn how to grow your own, how to grow your own food, and and why we grow our own food, why we find out who our farmers are, and have that kind of a foundation for the rest of our lives and our grandchildren and children. Obesity issue, the depression issue, the anxiety issue, it's all about just being disconnected from your true self. And so it's the mind. It's a battle between the ears. It's the mindset that's the problem. I think I said that in AA they call it stinking thinking. Well, all thinking is suspect, right? So the mind is not our friend. I call it the frenemy. And because it appears as a friend, but it's really trying to destroy your real connection. And so we need to get back to that. And sitting still is one of the ways to separate do the breathing and do the fingertips technique for 5 minutes. You can do it. I do it for about 20 or 25 minutes in the morning, but just 5 minutes works. And so that reconnection is going to power you for the rest of your life. And it's a commitment. But it's easy. It's Hakuna Matata. I mean, who wants to live suffering? It's foolishness, because we're meant to be high. And this is the high that has no downside. All these other false highs have major consequences.
Well, what do you say to the girls who don't want to live? Because I remember not wanting to live at one point.
Well, that's the same mindset. That's where the mind will always bring you.
Right.
So once you can see that something's got a hold on you and that you're identified with this mind, now it's a matter of letting it go, letting it die. Bye-bye. So the whole thing is a reconnection to our fundamental nature, which is God who made us, and the Holy Spirit and the angels and saints and all your ancestors that are rooting for you, baby. So you want to go back to that connection.
And it can be as simple as, when you're at a stoplight, before you get out of the car.
It's true.
You can integrate this into your day in a really simple and easy
Well,
way.
when you're in your car and you notice that you're thinking and you're spinning out, it's back to feeling your hands on the steering wheel. It's just constantly shifting out of the mind. Like when we did the meditation, you notice that your mind hijacked you. So you come back, transition. I'm in transitioning. I'm transitioning from the mind into the spirit world. And then you just go through your life, a spirit in a body, but more fully, you're infilled with more spirit than mind. We transition from being mind-filled over to being spirit-filled.
Right, and I think that the mind-filled lifestyle that we're experiencing in this mass-centric worldview has us reaching for external gratification, whether it's through food, medication, love from other people, and that's really what we're seeing. And so we have to take action and have the courage to do it. And if you are in a crisis out there, then have the courage to do it. If you want to prevent a crisis from occurring, start doing it, and it's really in your hand.
Yeah, being present.
And there are no excuses. That's the thing I keep hearing. There's no excuse. Your mind will make excuses like
All
you
the
said.
time.
Yeah.
But you can just say, no,
Right.
thank you.
Your mind
Well, that's
flies.
the whole thing about recognizing that you're a slave. And who wants to be a slave to the mind? Because it has an agenda to kill you, to destroy you, to have you be sick, and there's no happiness there.
It causes so much stress, and a lot of the women who are experiencing high levels of stress just won't lose any more weight. So we did create a 30-day meditation program in our course that they can listen to anytime, anywhere.
And a fasting from screens.
Yes, I actually got rid of social media when I lost 160 pounds because that's why I lost the weight. I'm part of the reason. Just by not being on my phone as much and not consuming that media that made my mind crazy.
Right. You want to be present.
When you stop eating processed foods, and you have to creatively think about what you might replace them with, because you are going to get hungry. And when you stop using your screens, you have to think creatively about what it is, what else are you going to do? And maybe it's to get out of the mind, but at least you're generating that creative thought that's other than.
Well, there's an intuition that just shows you what's right to eat. You will know. Your body is going to crave. Like one day I just wanted tomato soup. I mean, why? I don't know why. I don't care. I just am going to follow my intuition on it.
I agree with you, and I see that there is a bridge between where people are in the modern world before they can get to that, because their intuition right now is like, I want ice cream. Their intuition is really their drive to have more, to feed the bacteria that are in their gut microbiome that want the ice cream or the potato chips or the
Oh yeah,
bread or
they're going to have
whatever
to. There's be a resistance.
there's that bridge. And so that's just something that, just some people we hear people talk about their intuition.
You're saying, excuse me. You're saying that there's a transitionary period where you're getting off of the foods you're craving, and you have to make a decision to.
Yeah, like the path to intuitarianism is what I call it, becoming an intuitarian, as opposed to a pescatarian or a carnivore or an omnivore, is one that where you there's a reset that happens in your gut microbiome, in your taste buds, in your mind. And it's a journey. And I've helped usher thousands of people through this threshold, so to say, where they reinvigorate their true health. And it's in the foundation. And that's why we encourage people to eat whole foods. And it sounds embarrassingly simple, but that's the very thing that's going to help to reset them so they can become connected to their intuitive sense. Because the intuition, it's a very clever plan, if it were to be a plan, to really shut down and block your connection with your intuition, which is the propagation of the human species in its essence, because we are drawn, we're magnetized towards things that our body needs to survive. But when that gets shut down because of birth control or other things, or we starve ourselves because we're taking a weight loss medication, it is like starvation, then we really have an interruption there. And so the pathway back to being able to feel your intuition gets kind of buried, what I notice. Being like on the front lines, interfacing with the public like we are, it's shocking.
It's never buried. It's always right there. Everybody knows. They may not want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Because of the mind.
Because of the mind. The mind tells them, I don't want to, or I don't feel like it.
They got a lot of facts, a lot of things they like to back it up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's a process, and when they're ready, they're ready. Like you were ready, like I'm ready when I am able to surrender things.
Ladies.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience that they should know that only Kerry can tell them? Excuse me, that only Keiren can tell them.
My baptized name is Keiren. No, I think we all know. And we all are here to support each other in that knowing. And unless we do that, we're not going to feel right. So feel right, eat right, do right, feel right.
Oh my gosh. I've been saying that to you forever. Do good, be good, and then it'll all be good.
Always said it to me. I was really angry when he told me when I was 5 years old. Like, do good, be good, and it's all good.
Shut up, Mom.
That's exactly what I said when I was 5.
Oh my gosh.
But now you're right. And that's funny because I always say you're right. Moms are right about a lot of things. If they have a good mom.
Yeah.
They have a good mom. Thank you for being with us.
Love you guys.
Love you
Love you.
too.
This is great. We have to do it more often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, Penelope, could you do an intro?
Rap. I can't rap. I can say, Mr. Mental's not your friend. He'll be with you till the end. I won't listen to him today. Mr. Intuition guides my way.
I mean, I think that's the best intro.
I think so, too.
I think.
No, but I'd like you to say your full name and where we are.
My name is Keiren. I like Blue Heron. But Mr. Mental's not my friend. He'll be with me till the end. I won't listen to him today. Mr. Intuition guides my way. Amen.
Amen.
And I get an amen.
Amen.
Are you talking about like Gabe Brown or Ray Arcoletto, Linda Gibbs? Just from Gabe Brown to Ray Arcoletto to Linda Gibbs and Rudolph Steiner and Jack McAndrew and Steve Sprinkle up in Ojai and Phil McGrath down in Camarillo. Nicole Shanahan is a hero of mine. Bobby Kennedy, the hero of mine. I'm very proud of him. Superheroes, Ryan Wolfington, the founder of the Inspiring Children's Foundation. And Mike Riceboard, who's here every week helping to propagate the farm and to regenerate it. And it's magical. I mean, Jung talked about a collective consciousness. And I feel I can see that the call is there. She heeded the call at her age. I was 10 years older, let's say. This is a collective consciousness thing that we are all connected. There is a body of Christ, and even if you don't believe in it, you're still part of it. So they call that quantum entanglement. So we know what's right to do, and it's just a matter of time, because you either do it now or you do it on your deathbed, dying of cancer or some disease that you weren't supposed to get. So why not do it now? That's the good news of Jesus Christ, right? Let's go. Do it now. Let's go.
Hey, we noticed that 79.2% of you are not subscribed, which means you're watching our videos, you like the content, but you haven't made the commitment. So we would love it if you would subscribe. And if you want to join our Women's Accountability Group, don't forget to click the link in the description to join. We're only accepting amazing, awesome, and ready women, so please join if you're one of those. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we will see you all the time.